So today I'm going to be talking about Operation Bodyguard. This was the main deception operation in the later stages of World War II, which allowed the Allied forces to invade Western Europe, D-Day. It was a massive deception operation to spread Hitler's forces very thin, creating the illusions they were going to invade in lots of different places, causing Hitler and his armies to spread themselves so thin that it made the actual invasion a lot easier. Now, funnily enough, the actual original plans for this operation were called Operation Yael, which is based on like a biblical character that used deception to help free the Israelites. So I just better clarify that I don't know any of this actually happened. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, the simulation could have turned on yesterday, or today could be the first day of the simulation, and everything we know is just backstory programmed into us. I wasn't there in World War II. I don't know if it happened or not. I don't know if it's all just nonsense. But who knows? But for the sake of this this episode, I'm going to talk as if the history books are real, and I'm going to kind of use it to help put some weight behind my theory that all war is based on illusion and deception, and actually most soldiers, the deception is played upon them, and they believe that they are taking part in a war when actually they're not. Now, according to these history books, the mastermind of Operation Bodyguard and the guy of all the ideas was everyone's favourite Freemason and scumbag, Winston Churchill. Now, just so everyone understands, we don't like Winston Churchill over here in the UK. He is considered quite a scumbag, a sellout. He's very much Joe Biden. He's exactly the same as Joe Biden. In fact, he makes Joe Biden look like a competent, good president. But anyway, yes, it was Winston Churchill that came up with the term, or the name, Operation Bodyguard. Allegedly, at one of these huge meetings with all of the other top Freemasons of the other countries, he uttered a sentence that has been, it's become famous. Churchill said, "In wartime, truth is so precious, she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies." And what's interesting about old Winston Churchill is he had a career of massive blunders and disasters, yet somehow he became the Prime Minister of the country, and essentially, one of these fictional characters that was the leader of the free world and will live on forever through history. He was in charge of Gallipoli, which was a military disaster. And he also, in the beginning of World War II, was the Rear Admiral of the Navy. And he made a lot of blunders there. And somehow, yes, he rose up the ladder. Now, this is quite common in politics. It's called falling up the ladder, right? You notice in politics, a lot of these guys that fuck up big time somehow end up getting elevated again and again. That's not really a surprise. It happens a lot. It's almost like they're made to do something bad to show their dedication to whatever kind of cause they are fighting for, whatever hidden cult they're in. Anyway, that's a different topic for a different day. What I find so interesting about Operation Bodyguard is it's, you can kind of cross-reference it and put it side by side with what's going on in Ukraine, and it's a pretty good matchup. And it feels to me like all the systems that were put in place to convince the whole of Europe and, all sides, the British, the Americans, the Germans, the Russians, the deception was played on all of them. And I personally feel it was so successful that now has carried on into our modern day, and it's more spread from just being about politics and war into everything from entertainment to the schooling system. Controlling all sides but creating the illusion you're at war with one another works so well. It's an imaginary friction, imaginary enemies who are then going through the rigmarole and the actual live action events, which I call illusion ops, which convinces them it's very real. So there were 5, main core elements of Operation Bodyguard. Okay, one was intelligence gathering, which is pretty standard, right? All the intelligence agencies gathering as much information about the enemy as they can. There was also, obviously, counterintelligence, making sure that the enemy wasn't getting hold of your intelligence. And, the British were very good at kind of manipulating that and giving out false, misinformation. They pretty much rounded up all of the advert German spies and had them under their control, okay? The third one was there was something called the Black Orchestra. That was the name given to it at the time. This was a load of officers and generals within the German military who were planning to overthrow Hitler. Yet again, these are kind of like double agents, which I'm pretty sure you will find everywhere in today's modern world. The other, the fourth one is what they call special operations. Now, this would be funding and training resistance fighters behind enemy lines, okay? Sabotage, abductions of certain people. It's the whole kind of operation of the underground behind enemy lines that's causing your enemy big problems, okay? Then you've got, which I think is one of probably the most powerful ones of all, which is political warfare, propaganda aimed at civilians, deception aimed at civilians. It's using rumour and misinformation to cause the population to kind of question their commitment to the leadership, question that their leaders are competent, question that they're, fighting for the right side. It's about sowing them seeds of discontent and causing your own people to kind of turn against you. Yet again, if you bring that to a modern day, you can look at things like the BLM, the George Floyd kind of operations, Right now in Iran, we've got a whole kind of women's protest against their leadership. If you can get your own people to turn against you, then it's very, very, very easy to go and conquer that country, right? Psychological operations, they work well. And using political warfare is a way of doing that, Make certain groups feel alienated, make them feel like their life's in danger, to the point where they get up and march, and you've got civil unrest. Easy. Now the fifth element is the most important. That's the deception itself. That carries the day, okay? There is so much deception that goes on in warfare, and there's so much deception that went on in Operation Bodyguard. And yet again, if I bring that forward to today, there is so much deception going on in Ukraine. It's just unbelievable. You have to remember, though, with deception in warfare, such as Operation Bodyguard and what we're seeing here in Ukraine, is that it's very key that nobody finds out the deception's going on, and they tend to not tell the soldiers themselves until afterwards. So they might get a whole battalion of soldiers they might tell them that they're really going to go invade X, and the soldiers will pack up their bags, load up their guns, get ready, line up. They'll go through all the motions as if they really were going to do it. Then it gets called off at the last minute, and then nothing happens. And then the superiors, the generals, will then reveal to them soldiers, sorry guys, but you were part of a massive deception campaign and we couldn't tell you. Why? Because it was just too damn dangerous. We couldn't have that getting out. And then obviously they'll kind of tell these soldiers that they're heroes. They're heroes. Their part in the deception was why the other guys over there, their real activities made it. You guys are the heroes. You took part in deception. You didn't tell anyone. You did your job. You are why we won the war. Anyway, back to Operation Bodyguard itself. So there were three kind of main objectives with Operation Bodyguard. The first was creating the illusion there was going to be a huge invasion at Calais, when actually, in fact, it was about 200 miles south in Normandy, as we all know. But yes, they had to give the illusion, they had to fool the enemy into thinking the invasion was going to happen at Calais. The second was to make sure that Hitler kept his armies in Calais days after the invasion had taken place. Now, the third was to keep the Normandy invasion secret, which of course meant keeping it a secret from most of the Allied forces. You know, the whole goal was to have the German forces spread out very thinly across the whole of Western Europe. A bit of the old Sun Tzu's Art of War. If my enemy sends reinforcements everywhere my enemy will be weak. So I think that's it for today. That's all I'm going to talk about regarding Operation Bodyguard. I'm going to do a lot more videos using Operation Bodyguard as my kind of template for what's going on in Ukraine, okay? I definitely think anyone who has the time, spare time, go and look up Operation Bodyguard, get some audiobooks. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff on YouTube. And then listen to my stuff, and I will try and then tie it into how all of World War II was an illusion. No one really died. It was one massive live action role play, with every soldier being convinced that the reason they didn't die or see action is because they were part of a grander deception. Okay? We live in a twilight world. There are no friends at dusk.